when 9/11 was hitting right there where you see Freedom Tower. They were running all the way from there straight across to Manhattan and basically saving people who were coming off the island at a time where they thought the whole fucking island was blowing up. They were having a meeting with the NY-NJ Port Authority to discuss what preparations to take in the event of a catastrophic attack. And as they're out there, you see the fireman's head look up, you hear the motor, you're like, what the? And then they clip it up and you see it. There's a video online, you see, They showed this in The Sopranos, this is real. The mafia started giving intel to the FBI. It was such a strange time that brought people together, and I hate that it takes things like that. Is something that certainly changed my life forever.
Hey guys, thank you to all who've tuned in to the last few videos of the migrant crisis. We're switching subjects today, commemorating one of the catastrophic days in American history, if not the most catastrophic day, that being 9/11. This video goes out to all the first responders, military, and all the individuals who were impacted by this event. I was able to sit down, well not sit down, I actually was able to walk and speak across the Hudson with Julian Dorey, who, as you many know, is a big podcaster, one of the biggest in the space. So I felt very fortunate to be able to speak with him and him being able to share the stories of people that lived and that were there that fateful day. I do want to apologize, we did have some audio issues. The wind was picked up in some parts of the video, however it was only for small portions, and for the majority of the conversation, it's not even noticeable. So thank you guys for all who have tuned in, people sharing all over social media. It really means a lot. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe, and enjoy the video.
So you're about to see the view. This I think is, and we're gonna see it along this whole path.
Yeah.
There's things that get bigger and smaller, but I think this is the best view in New York. This is what I was talking about, all the way from the Verrazano. See it straight down there?
That's freaking
right
crazy.
Over the horizon. Walk this way. You can see all the way down there.
It's
in the
freaking
distance,
nuts.
Above this dude's head, standing along the corner, you can see the George Washington Bridge, which takes you all the way to northern Manhattan. And on this side, we have Fort Lee. Union City is back there. Weehawken's right here.
Yeah.
I think Edgewater's right up above Weehawken, and then Hoboken. And back this way this is actually a cool story. This is Jersey City, right?
Yeah.
Which is getting really built up. Jersey City's like 21 times, I think, the size of Hoboken. It's a big neighborhood with a lot of different types of neighborhoods. But if you can see all the waterway ferries right here, there's a great documentary on Vice. It's a short doc, maybe like 15, 20-minute type doc. I forget what it's called, but type in 9/11 ferry boats rescue.
That's the story.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so these guys who drive the ferries from lower Hoboken, and then also the guys who drive them all the way up there where we're gonna walk later from upper Hoboken, when 9/11 was hitting right there where you see Freedom Tower, these guys right here, move the camera back around, where you see these ferries over the fence right here, they were running all the way from there straight across to Manhattan and basically saving people who were coming off the island at a time where they thought the whole island was blowing up. It was obviously horrible and crazy. It was a giant cloud of smoke, and they were just ripping it. I mean, these guys rip it like when they're driving regular. They were ripping it back and forth and just getting people off to safety in New Jersey who just ran as far away from it as possible, which is pretty crazy history when you consider what it, I mean, you know, and you think about it, that was 102 minutes, like that whole thing, it happened so fast. You know, Beck, I remember, described that really well, coming over the bridge from Brooklyn, seeing it, and then just, he's like, I think it was, I mean, a lot of them say this, he's like, I thought we were just dead. Like it came down, and I know Evie just said that. Yeah. She's like, you know, I just thought we were dead.
I was gonna say, there's been so many guests in the studio that are from New York, and like each one of them just about has a story on 9/11, which is so wild because it's been now over 20 plus years, and it's like they tell the story like it was yesterday, like so vivid and so real. Like Evie's, from what I've heard so far, was probably the heaviest because she was literally there, and when the buildings came down, she said
Jim DOREY'S was heaviest too.
That's right, yeah. Just
Jim's story is crazy.
How everyone sprung to action immediately.
Jim was, that day, that morning, took the ferry over from the Jersey side to the New York Port Authority, who ran those buildings, by the way. to discuss, oh my God, he worded it so perfectly, but they were having a meeting with the NYNJ Port Authority to discuss what preparations to take in the event of a catastrophic attack. And as he's coming over there on the boat, boom! Tower 1 gets hit. And he knew it right away. But then that second one, I mean, I think he was on Church Street. The second, like he got off at Church Street, comes over his head, second one, and he's like, holy shit. I mean, when you hear stuff like that, it's like, you pinch yourself a little bit.
Dude, everyone kept saying, they're like, oh, some guy that was flying a plane accidentally crashed into the Trade Center.
Yeah.
Like, that was the initial reaction by so many people being like, oh, that's a tragic accident.
Yes.
And then it kind of was like, all right, we'll handle it, be dealt with. And it seemed it wasn't until that second plane.
So when the first tower got hit, there's only one video that exists of that, and it was the Naudet brothers, or Naudet, however they say it, who were the two French documentarian brothers, and they happened to be out there at like a routine, like drilling into the ground with some of the firemen. And as they're out there, you see the fireman's head look up, you hear the motor, you're like, what the f? And then they clip it up and you see it. There's a video online. You see the plane, boom, they get it right as it's pancaking into the tower. So
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You couldn't really see what it was. But those guys actually then literally were in the towers. They went with, because they were with the fire department, so they went and risked their lives and got the most insane footage of 9/11 and later made the documentary, I think it's called 102 Minutes That Changed America. I think that's the one. Yeah, that's the one they did.
Oh, I got to see that.
If it's not, I think it's just called 9/11. But I'm pretty sure it's 102 Minutes to Change America. That it's very tragic, but it really brought it home on a worldwide basis more than any other attack could have in any other city, just because this place is so international. And, you know, it's the greatest city in the world. So, you know, it's just crazy when you look back at all the different people who became forever a part of their story, that was the basis of their life.
Yeah.
You know, and that's like it's one of the first things I could ever really, like, I was so young, but I vividly remember everything about that day. You know, and it's one of the first things I can really remember almost every part of it, like where I could comprehend it. Like I remember things when I was 4 and 5, but on a basic level, because you don't really comprehend it. But when you're like, I think I was 7 or 8, like it was enough that like that day is something that certainly changed my life forever. For sure. It was something else for sure.
That day, it didn't matter
Even
who you
the
were.
gangsters agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it didn't matter who you were. It's like, dude.
The mafia started helping, the Italian mafia, and they showed this in The Sopranos. This is real. The mafia started giving intel to the FBI about people that they suspected could be terror cells that they came across in their businesses or saw. And like they do it for a future good shit, when the FBI inevitably arrested them, they could say, look, we helped you, take 2 years off the sentence, that kind of thing. It was such a strange time that brought people together, and I hate that it takes things like that to bring people together. What we were talking about on the Patreon episode and the YouTube members only episode, I think it's fair to Monday Morning Quarterback Iraq, because there's stuff that they knew at the time that they maybe didn't disclose or even lied about, and that, you know, Saddam was a horrible guy, but he didn't do 9/11.
Halliburton.
And
Halliburton
so
there.
yeah. Sean Ryan said about Halliburton. Halliburton. You know, there were the conflicts of interest in that thing were crazy. Bush's dad had started the war in '92 with Desert Storm and left. He wanted to finish his dad's job. People run crazy with that whole thing. So I think it's fair. Like even when we talk with the vets, they come in. Like Mike Ritland straight up says, yeah, we shouldn't have been there. At the time, that's not what he thought, because it's his job to be there and do his job, and he did an amazing job. But like when you have Navy SEALs saying that, who were there and did that, that, you know, you got to listen to that and be like, okay, we should. And obviously, I've been pretty outspoken about that. I strongly believe we never should have been there.
Yeah.
But
you make the good point though, where these vets, when they talk about it, it's like you always tell them this, and I agree 100%. Being like, you were just told what to do.
Yep.
You guys are the executioners. You execute what you have to do the mission. That's that. And it's like, unfortunately, you know, whether they had it or not, it's not their fault.
Right.
They had nothing to do with it other than execute what the executive branch said the commander-in-chief told them to do. And it's just like, it sucks. And, you know, they lost a lot of friends there. And you hear the stories of all these guys, Sean Ryan especially, talking about the PTSD, the TBI, all these guys face. And it's never their fault. It's the politicians we put in place that just leads them there. And unfortunately, makes them come back and they have that question being like, what the hell were we doing? Why were we even there? It sucks.
Look, in a big army, in a big military, just like in any organization, occasionally, do you have a bad guy? Yeah, of course you do.
Yeah.
We saw some of the guys at Abu Ghraib. They got prosecuted for that, and they should have been. But by and large, the military is comprised of amazing people who made a sacrifice that I never did. And I have such reverence and respect for that, especially the people we've had through the studio. We've been really privileged to have some just incredible warriors for America that have been through there. So I am always out front about respecting the job they did and the experience they had, and also respecting their opinion. Like Sean Ryan, I think he fluctuates a bit on that, but like he has some opinion. Like it felt like, I think his exact words were, you know, when something along the lines of like, when you're saving women and children from people who are murdering them in their homes, if they don't comply and like that, you feel like you're doing a pretty good thing. And I think that's very fair.
Hey, and Mike said about Saddam, where it's like, he was a bad person.
Awful guy.
And Ryan Tate being like, dude, the things he did in the palaces where they shot babies and things I won't say on here, it's like, he was a terrible person.
The worst. Yeah.
Am I glad he's gone? Yes, totally. How is it now? It's arguably worse, unfortunately.
Because it was a power vacuum, you know. And there's a couple things here, but like, just to make sure I get that across, like, I always am out front with these guys, telling them I appreciate so much what they did, and I want them to give that experience however they saw it happen. And then, you know, we can talk about after the fact, okay, what do you think of us being there? And I don't have to agree with them. They're not only so entitled to their opinion, they were literally there. You know, so like they're really entitled to their opinion, but it's like, it's not a, it is a tough conversation sometimes, and luckily the guys we've had in have made it really comfortable, and you know, we're able to go through it. But talking about Saddam and the vacuum it created, the power vacuum, Andy Bustamante in episode 107, he gave a hard truth on this stuff, talking about collegiate culture, and he gets a lot of shit for a lot of different things on the internet, and then some people obviously love him too. He's a love-hate kind of guy. He's a good friend of mine. You know, people can think what they think about him still being in the CIA or not. I think he might be. I tell him that to his face and on camera all the time. But that aside,
alleged.
You know, I'm like, yeah, you left. But he talks about collegiate culture, and it was kind of funny because we were like, he wanted to drink in that podcast, so we were really tying one on, and I'm like, what the f*** is that? And he goes, that's such a big question. Like, he wanted to like tear my face off for saying that, but I had known what he was talking about. I was unfamiliar with the term, but now I know it because of him. And like, what he's saying is that a lot of the Middle East countries, just the way that their culture has been built for thousands of years, is that they are drawn towards a strongman leader. And that is the only way to really keep some things under control. Now, he's saying, unfortunately, that has some horrible downsides to it.
Horrible.
Much of the time.
Emphasis there.
Yes. But he's like, my job is to worry about America's interests first. And yes, does it make it easier when you have someone who is culturally in line in charge, even if they are a totalitarian? Unfortunately, the answer is usually yes, if the alternative is a power vacuum. That's worse. And that's the situation we have with Iraq, which is very tough to grapple with because, like, again, Saddam was one of the worst people ever, man. He killed so many people, his own people. He was a scumbag. But, like, we put al-Zarqawi in power, who was the godfather of ISIS. Joby Warwick discussed that at length in episode 134. He wrote the book that is like the preeminent history of ISIS, won the Pulitzer Prize, called Black Flags. It was in came out in 2015 or 2016, won the Pulitzer. And, you know, he talks about how Al-Zarqawi seized on that within less than a year of us going, remember the mission accomplished thing in Iraq with Bush? Like Al-Zarqawi seized on that and made it a hellhole. Because these guys like that, once they have room to operate, and they don't have a dictator who's jealous of anyone with power and suppresses them, they're chaos agents, and they're even worse. And he died, we finally got him in 2006, but he birthed the movement that became ISIS. I'm not saying this happened to him, although he did do some weird shit as a child. I just can't remember the exact stories, but you know, he's the kid that like burns the cat at age 5 and likes it, and you're like, uh-oh. Like that's Al-Zarqawi.
That's a red flag.
Yeah, like that is who he was, and he had a bone to pick with the world, and the minute he found something in a moment of need, you know, where he was looking for his meaning, of course he found it in the wrong place, and he was so bad. Like Bin Laden wanted nothing to do with him.
That's right.
He started as an official envoy, like an official cell of Al-Qaeda. And Bin Laden was like, oh, that guy. And then when he really got power in Iraq after the war went up, Bin Laden's like, all right, we got to claim him as ours. But he was really like, yo, this motherfucker's crazy.
Yeah, because what did Joby say? Joby said Bin Laden, for as horrible as he was very smart.
Look, you have to say it. Bin Laden was a very intelligent guy.
Very intelligent.
Yes.
What was where did he go study? He went to a couple universities.
He's from the famous Bin Laden family.
That's right.
Yeah, there were 57 children of Mohammed bin Laden.
So he was well educated, whereas Zakari was just like a wild one.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. He was a dog.
Family,
he was an idiot.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like you have to remember, Al-Qaeda's 2 leaders were bin Laden and Zawahiri, al-Zawahiri, who was a fucking doctor. Zawahiri, why do I always? He was a doctor. I mean, the guy, listen, they were crazy terrorists, but like the guy was smart. And then when ISIS became a full-blown thing in 2014, Al-Qaeda was like the Drewski meme. You know, when he's got his hands up like, whoa. They were like, listen, we not that. those would be crazy. You know, we just right over here, we doing our little terrorism. That you know, don't be looping us in with that, boys. And they're like, you know, that's how those guys were nuts. Like I'm not gonna say on here, but there's someone we got to reach out to that I want to get in from that time period who saw it up close. And like they were just people, you know, we use the word savage as a compliment these days. I do too. It's overused, but like we still use it. But like they were actual, in a non-complimentary way, savages. They weren't even human, the shit they did to people. And may they all rest in piss.
Yeah.